Welcome to Bible Fiber, where we are encountering the textures and shades of the biblical tapestry. I'm Shelley Neese, president of the Jerusalem Connection, a Christian organization devoted to sharing the story of the people of Israel, both ancient and modern. After 4 years of near weekly episodes, I took the month off June from Bible Fiber and actually went to Israel to participate in an archaeological dig at Shiloh. The excavation has been going on for years under the auspices of the Associates for Biblical Research and Dr. Scott Stripling, who directs ABR's excavations at Shiloh. For the last 20 years, I've worked for the Jerusalem Connection, dedicated to our mission to inform, educate, and activate Christian support for Israel. Because Israel's challenges change daily, I follow the 24-hour news cycle more than I like. Overindulging in political commentary and wartime analysis is an occupational hazard I've chosen to live with. However, to mitigate the risk of getting too caught up in the contemporary, I'm also a biblical archaeology student. Since 2019, I've taken one class every semester, slowly ticking away at the requirements for a degree in biblical history and archaeology. My intention is that I advocate for modern Israel each day. I remain grounded in the original purpose for my life's commitment. I support Israel because of the Bible. God gave this land to the Jewish people, and their story began, climaxed, and renewed here. Nothing reminds me of that more than immersing myself in the biblical text or digging directly in Israel's soil. Part of our degree program allows us to go to Israel in the summer and participate in 2-week intervals with the excavation team at Shiloh. I flew out to Israel and joined the team on June 6. The main news headline at the time was Greta Thunberg trying to break the Gaza blockade on a little yacht. On the morning of June 13th, we were sleeping in our hotel rooms, ready for another day of digging and sifting, when the home front command alarms blared. Israel had launched 5 waves of airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, targeting Iranian Revolutionary Guard leadership as well. A typical dig day starts at 4:30 a.m., so we went to breakfast to discuss how this major global change impacted our local excavation. Stripling announced that the bus would still pick us up for Shiloh, despite uncertainty about checkpoints and incoming missiles. He said he understood if anyone chose not to go due to the site's lack of a bomb shelter, but we all boarded the bus. If we got turned away at the border, that would signal calling off the whole dig. Instead, the guards at the checkpoint, accustomed to our morning routine, smirked at our audacity and let us through. Despite the war raging in Iran and Iran's counterstrikes in Israel, we excavated for 3 days. Sirens and Homefront Command phone messages awakened us at the hotel at night, but we still boarded the bus each morning. On June 17th, the staff officer for archaeology within the Israeli Civil Administration instructed Stripling to call off the excavation. Things were too intense. Closing the season required a full day of packing and dismantling. As we worked, more alerts blared, followed by Shiloh's siren, signaling missiles overhead. Without a proper bomb shelter, we stood in the field watching Israel's Iron Dome intercept at least a dozen missiles. The risk at that point always involves falling shrapnel. One of the Israeli archaeologists from a nearby town had a car-sized piece of shrapnel land in his yard. For about 10 minutes, a handful of us stood in a tin-roof storage shed, but that was the only caution we could take. It still took several hours to cover our excavation squares with felt, empty the wet sifting trough, and dispose of our trash. However, when we boarded the return bus for the last time, we all understood our time at Shiloh had to conclude. One of my last jobs at Shiloh involved restoring a 2,000-year-old silo that had been fully excavated but required reinforcement with mortar and rocks. While I completed the tedious work of wedging rocks and mortar into open crevices to prevent rodent and plant intrusion, I mourned the trauma and destruction that Tel Aviv was enduring. Even if the Iron Dome intercepts 90% of the incoming missiles, the missiles that hit Tel Aviv damaged at least 240 residential buildings and over 2,000 apartments. Israel's finance minister estimated $3 billion in direct economic damage. I knew that once I returned to my job at the Jerusalem Connection, I would dive deep into defending Israel's right to destroy the Iranian nuclear threat. I knew the media would turn against Israel and try to minimize Iran's role in perpetuating terrorist organizations. However, at that moment, my only job was to restore a 2,000-year-old silo. I wished I could work on rebuilding all of Tel Aviv, but Israel was not even out of the war yet, much less ready to discuss recovery plans. I was reminded, though, while I always keep one foot in the world of biblical archaeology, even if my vocation calls me to the daily struggles of modern Israel. Sometimes all we can do is remind ourselves why we work on behalf of Israel, why we make ourselves targets of anti-Semitic trolls on the internet, why we go to Capitol Hill to meet with legislators about the U.S.-Israel relationship. All of it is because we believe modern Israel extends biblical Israel and fulfills God's promises to the Jewish people. As Christians grafted into God's kingdom, we hold the significance of biblical Israel close as we pray for modern Israel in our minds. In my case, in that moment, the trowel and the headlines were closely aligned. Your continued support is crucial to ensuring the Jerusalem Connection can represent the love and support of Christians as the nation of Israel rebuilds in the wake of the devastating effects of Iran's missiles. With your help, we can send a message of love to the people of Israel from Christians. Because of the combined efforts of Israel and the United States militaries, the world is a safer place. No longer does the dark shadow of Iran's nuclear program loom over the free world. Thank you for listening. We will be returning to Ezekiel's episodes next week. I had a lot of time while digging at Shiloh and on a bus to Cairo to think about that last half of Ezekiel, which is filled with messianic hope. I look forward to returning to those studies together. Shabbat Shalom and Am Israel Chai.